what you do and who you are so interconnected that having a personal brand should feel really natural.
Hi, I'm Maria, otherwise known as the Fit Foodie. I'm a chef, holistic nutritionist, author, inventor, and mom. And I want to welcome you to my podcast. It's called Recipes for Your Best Life. And with every episode, I'm peeling back the onion on fitness, nutrition, health, wellness, and family. The truth is, you're the chef of your life. And for every important pillar, there's a great recipe worth sharing. So every week, we'll explore them together. Think of it as food for thought that you can really sink your teeth into. So join me, and let's squeeze the joy out of this life, because you only get one. Can I get a fork, yeah? Today I'm interviewing Anna Vatuone. She is a personal brand strategist based in San Francisco, and I had the pleasure of meeting her when I was up in the Bay Area doing a book signing, and she and I did a live interview together. You can watch that on Facebook. I'll make sure that I include the link in the show notes. But what I thought would be fun is to have her share some of her secrets of what it takes to build your own personal brand. Whether you are in business or just a person out there trying to get ahead and do the right thing, I think all of these tips and helpful ideas will serve you well. And of course, I'm going to talk to her about food. So let's hear what Anna has to say. Hey, Anna, what's up?
Hey girl, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're with me and us today. And I just have to say again, it was such a pleasure to meet you when I was in San Francisco doing our book signing at the Ferry Building. It was like such a great thing to be able to sit down with you and chat. And for those of you listening, make sure you check out our Facebook Live that we did, and the link is in the show notes. But we had a great conversation about personal branding, and you're a personal brand strategist. I would call you a guru.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, great question. And just, in response, it was I hope everyone that's listening to this definitely checks out that Facebook Live, because we had a great discussion all about your book and personal branding. And it was so fun to be there and just have people in the room hanging out with us. So I really enjoyed it.
It was great.
Thank you for having me. To answer your question about what does a personal brand strategist mean and do, it was so funny because I would say about a year ago, I woke up and I literally decided that morning, that's what I was going to be. I said, I'm going to be a personal brand strategist. It was literally a night and day type of thing.
But did you have a PR background, or what prompted that?
So great question. I was working as a co-founder for this startup in Silicon Valley. And I was on a completely different path, but I was totally working for equity, running out of my own runway, just zero money. And I thought to myself, what can I do to make money on the side? And it needs to be flexible because I need it to work around my schedule. And so I started designing Squarespace websites for people. But I was kind of inclined to design them for individuals versus any small businesses or companies. And I loved the idea of helping people kind of manifest their personal brand through their website. And so it turned into something much bigger than designing a site. It turned into the brand positioning and the strategy and the messaging. And it just became something much bigger. And so when I say I woke up and decided I was a personal brand strategist, there was some work that was going into my job kind of before that. And I was just kind of developing what I wanted to be called and what this whole thing was. And that's what I came up with. I decided
that's interesting.
Brand strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you identified something I think that's really important. And I know we're going to dive into this a little bit more in detail, but you could have a product, or you can be your product. You can be the product that you're selling, but it's never about the thing. People want to do business with people that they can relate to and that they like, and ultimately you have to kind of sometimes really like usher that out of people, would you say?
Absolutely. I think we're kind of entering into this very interesting time, and marketing has really shifted. And I don't think people trust companies as much as they will ever trust people. So there's so much value in a company's message coming from a person, from being able to connect with the owner of a company or the CEO of a company, because when we're able to connect with people, we can resonate with the message on a much deeper level.
All you have to do is look at Instagram. I feel like the people that, have such an incredible, attentive following. I'm not talking about likes. I'm talking about, I will call them lifelong hardcore fans are the ones that you feel like you feel like they're your friend, even though you don't know them. And I'll give you an example of who I absolutely adore is The Rock. I feel like The Rock, I feel like I know him. I feel like he's my buddy. He's so real and his videos are so cute, and the way he shares his family. And it's not about the big dude that's on, in major movies. It's like there's a very beautiful human side of him that you get to experience.
Totally. And don't you think that because of what he shares on social media, you're so much more inclined to go see his next movie or buy his next product or read what he has on his website. We're so much more drawn to people when they're open with us and when they're honest and they share what's really going on in their life. And I think the magic kind of happens when we're able to infuse our personal passions and our professional expertise and bring those two together to make a really cool brand that people want to follow and can get behind.
So let me ask you this. When you work with clients and you help them to develop their brand, I think there's, I'm a big fan of Brene Brown. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she, a big part of what she talks about is vulnerability and how courageous that is. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you have to be vulnerable and show your personal side in order to, endear people to your personal brand? Or what's the line, I guess you could say?
I actually watched Brene Brown's Netflix documentary.
Yeah, I just saw it this weekend.
Yeah, and it really impacted me. And it actually, made me think a lot about what vulnerability has to do in regards to personal branding and how the two are intertwined. And I think you do have to be vulnerable to some extent to have the kind of brand that we're talking about. I think it's so important that we are vulnerable, but I think vulnerability comes in waves. And I don't think that we necessarily have to go from 0 to 100%. Mm-hmm. I think we can start small, whether that's just sharing a sweet experience that you had over the weekend. And then maybe next time you share something a little bit deeper and then maybe a little bit deeper. But right. I don't think that, I think people are intimidated by the word vulnerability, and I don't want anyone to be intimidated by vulnerability. I think it can happen in waves and as you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, I almost feel like sometimes people kind of it's almost like too much. I don't need to see you in your underwear. You know what I mean?
I think there is a line.
Unless you want to. I also think people seek out experts or seek out people to inspire them and motivate them. And I think there is a line there. And when you work with people to kind of help tell their story, where do you start? Do you start with, more about them, more about what they're offering? How does the whole process start?
Yeah, well, the first question that I ask my clients or any prospective clients is, what's your vision? What do you see for yourself in 5 years? What clothes are you wearing? What job are you working at? And what does your family look like? Everything, even the personal side and the professional side. And then I ask them, now, what's your purpose? What's your why? Mm-hmm. And I think having a why behind your brand is so important because somebody can say, I just want to have 20,000 followers on Instagram. And that's the main goal. But if you don't have a purpose behind that, you don't have a why behind why you want 20,000 followers on Instagram, it may be really hard to convince people that your message is worth following.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to identify what your why is, what your purpose is, and then you can build a strategy and a community and clarify your message centered around that purpose.
Yeah, I think that's just so critical, because it can feel like it's just a like fest,
Totally.
And the truth is you can buy likes. So it really, to me, we have to kind of discern between what are we trying to do and what is our vision and what affirmation looks like to us. Are we just after affirmation, or are we really sharing our true purpose? And I think that is really critical. And so when when you sit down and you say, okay, what's your why? What's your vision? Where do you want to be? What are your priorities? How do you want this thing to look in 5 years? Because that's going to shape your life. Do you find that people are resistant to seeing into the future, or are they usually visionaries? Because I think that's also not an easy task to say, well, here's where I am now and here's where I want to be, without it feeling like it's more material, I guess, in terms of success.
That's a good question. I think by the time that a prospective client comes to me, they're pretty certain that they know the vision and they know where they want to be in the future. They just need someone to help them get there. And I think, when someone searches the term personal brand strategist, they're already thinking, their wheels are already turning. They're already wondering, how am I really going to manifest this brand? And what does my brand look like? And I know that I want to have a purposeful online presence. I'm just not quite sure the steps to get there. And I think, even when I was building my brand, it was so hard because you have a certain idea in your mind, but to actually put that on paper and to put it out online into the world, that's a whole nother ballgame. Execution is always the hardest part. So it helps to have someone to kind of shoot ideas with back and forth.
I think that's really critical because I had a mentor and she was very, one of the things that she taught from the very beginning was, what does that person that you're talking to look like? Where do they live? What are their ideals? What are their physical, spiritual, lifestyle characteristics? Get really specific and actually create, that, what's the word called when you can actually see somebody? I'm trying to find the word in my brain. Anyways, but it's almost like sketch that person out.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that you can see who you're talking to and always keep that in mind. And I know for me, I started my career in the food industry over 27 years ago now. I'm so that's such a crazy thing to be able to say, but
congratulations.
Well, it just tells you how ancient I am, but
no, you're seasoned.
Thank you. With a lot of salt.
There you go.
But when I look back on how things have changed and adjusted for me, it was really the last decade where I started my business, and my business was really based more on a product, even though I have a culinary background and a nutrition background, but I really honed that during the process. And what I found is it wasn't just about the product. It was about me showing people how to use it in their lifestyle and bringing my food skills and my nutrition point of view into the frame and bringing them into my life, because I really believe the product works to help make your life better. But it could have only been a product. You know what I mean?
I think it's hard because we think that we can separate ourselves from our work and our lives. And it's so much harder, especially when you're running a small business. I mean, the two, what you do and who you are so interconnected that having a personal brand should feel really natural. Mm-hmm. And I think, expert marketers will tell you, show, don't tell. So I think if you do have a product-based business or even a service-based business, being able to show your audience and clients or customers how to use something or what you can do for them instead of telling them works wonders.
100%. I mean, I will say that, like, the worst thing that you could do is sell, sell, sell. I think, people are like, they don't want you shoving it